Bethesda's been promising Elder Scrolls 6 for 14 years. Meanwhile, a Polish indie board game publisher just shipped it for them. It crashes a lot, it looks like Oblivion before the remaster, and if you touch the wrong frog, it permanently disables your character. No takebacks, no respec, just broken forever. But somehow it's still getting better reviews than most AAA releases this year. This is Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon, an open world RPG based on the legend of King Arthur. 35 quid from a 50-person Polish indie team with more bugs than a Bethesda launch, but somehow it still has an 85% positive review score on Steam across 14,000 reviews with 450,000 copies sold. And I'm going to show you why this game is worth paying attention to, because once again it's an indie studio doing everything the big studios are too scared to attempt, better than they ever could. But first, let me tell you who made this thing, because that's where this story gets interesting. Questline Studio aren't your typical indie developers. They're not ex-Bethesda veterans or industry old-timers chasing nostalgia. They're a subsidiary of Awaken Realms, a Polish board game publisher famous for narrative tabletop games like Nemesis and the original Tainted Grail board game. The game itself originally started as a Kickstarter campaign that was so successful, they thought, you know what, let's make this into a proper RPG instead. And that there is risk personified. They had an idea, they believed in it, they went for it. And they don't hide from their influences. You can tell the game is heavily influenced by the Elder Scrolls in many different ways. They even have bloody horse armor DLC as a joke 20 years later, and they're still taking the piss out of that disaster. Love it. The game itself even opens up with a classic Oblivion style prison break. It's basically Oblivion but haunted by the ghost of King Arthur. So look, the influence is obvious in many ways, but this isn't just a throwback, it's an upgrade in disguise. It's got 170 skills across 22 different skill trees, no classes, no hand holding, build what you want if your stats can handle it. 70 different dungeons, 200 side quests, 50 to 70 hour playthrough from 50 developers. That's impressive. But if you think this is just Skyrim but broken, nah, this game doesn't mess about. You get a lot of bang for your buck and it's not afraid to punch you in the face for your choices. Where this all makes sense is narrative board games live or die on meaningful choices. You can't patch a board game after someone opens the box. So when these developers moved into video games, they brought that same DNA with them. Every choice matters, every system has weight. They spent 14 months in early access actually listening to player feedback, which is a refreshing change from the usual we know better than you approach. But what did they actually build? Well, let's take a look. Permanent limb loss. Interact with certain creatures called croakmores, which are basically evil frogs, and you can lose your arm forever. No magic restoration, no respec option, no takebacks. Congratulations, you can never dual wield again. You can't mine, you can't use two-handed weapons. Your character is permanently disabled. It's mental, but it's also brilliant. It's a decision with a consequence that actually means something. Faction choices permanently lock you out of entire quest lines. If you join one of the game's factions, you lose access to another story forever. What you choose not to do is just as influential as what you choose to do. And think about that for a second. When was the last time that a AAA RPG let you fail permanently? Everything's respecable, reversible, focus tested into meaningless. Starfield lets you change your entire background mid-game. Skyrim lets you become the leader of every single faction simultaneously, even when they're at war with each other. Real consequence is something really lacking in modern RPGs, and this game nails it throughout. Now here's where Questline really impressed me. So you take their portable bonfire system, you can set up camp anywhere, rest, craft, level up, communicate with Arthur's dead ghost. It sounds simple until you realise it completely changes how you approach exploration. No more hiking back to predetermined save points, no more artificial barriers to progression, risk sleeping in dangerous territory for better positioning, or play it safe and lose momentum. Smart design that changes the open world pacing. Because then there's the weirdness system, because when night falls, golden fog descends and transforms regular creatures into twisted, evil, stronger, more dangerous variants. But they drop a resource called ethereal cobwebs, which you need for fast travel and upgrades, so it creates that perfect risk-reward loop. You can brave the horror for better rewards, or sleep safe and progress slower. Proper innovation, not just a timer, a meaningful choice that affects how you play the game. But the real standout for me is King Arthur's ghost. You're exploring the ruins ruins of Camelot and Arthur's just there providing commentary. This bitter, self-aware dead king watching you, talking to you while you clean up his mess delivers some of the best moments in the game for me. And as I say, the build variety is massive. There's 170 skills across 22 skill trees, significantly more complex than Skyrim's dumbed down progression system. No classes, no hand holding. There's so much to see and do. Everywhere you turn there's something worth looking at. 200 side quests, and all from 50 developers working in the Unity engine. That's not just impressive, it's mental in the best way. And this isn't your typical power fantasy Arthurian legend, it's gothic psychological horror. The game basically asks, what if Arthur's return wasn't salvation but a curse? So it's set 600 years after his fall. You're exploring the decaying remnants of Camelot while bound to Arthur's fragmented soul. The whole world exists in perpetual autumn. There's blood lakes where the Lady of the Lake once resided, twisted forests full of plague zombies, and the atmosphere is spot on. The music, the ambience, the visual design, it all works to create this sense of beautiful decay. And they committed fully to that vision, so there's 12 different endings based on your choices. And think about that scope from 50 developers. Making 12 meaningful conclusions instead of just one is a massive undertaking. Way more complex, way more work, so many more ways for everything to go wrong, but they did it anyway. Legendary characters like Galahad and Merlin appear in unexpected, twisted, morally complex roles. No clear good guys, no simple solutions, and on top of that there's 250 fully voiced NPCs. Let me be clear about the technical issues. It's built in Unity engine, 50 developers, it crashes and stutters everywhere. It's Steam Deck verified, but it does struggle in the larger areas. The game definitely needs optimization, no question at all. But here's the thing, it has 85% positive reviews from 14,000 players. The technical issues here aren't the story, they're proof of the concept. This team chose ambitious systems over stable frame rates and fancy graphics. They prioritized player agency over mass market appeal. The crashes are the price you pay for a studio that won't compromise their vision for comfort. These board game developers just proved there's a massive demand for complex, consequence-heavy RPGs, and the question isn't why Tainted Grail succeeded despite its flaws, it's why every studio with 10 times the budget is clearly too scared to even try. Look, me personally, I'd rather play something that takes risks, that innovates, that respects me as a player, that gives me freedom, even if it's rough around the edges, than give 70 quid to another AAA publisher that couldn't care less about my experience. I can forgive the crashes when there's genuine ambition behind it. Tainted Grail succeeds because it treats you like an adult. It assumes you can handle permanent failure, complex systems, and stories that don't just end with everybody wins. This is a game with so much more heart and ambition than any recent AAA RPG. So this isn't about defending crashes or excusing poor optimization. It's about recognizing what happens when developers trust their audience instead of focus testing the soul out of their vision. This 35 quid indie just reminded the industry what RPGs used to be and embarrasses them in the process. The question is, will they learn from it or keep churning out safe, soulless experiences while indies just keep showing them how it's done? Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. It really does me the biggest of favors. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.